I was asked to come out here and talk about the small town experience. So let me put this down. Can everybody hear me all right? Okay, good. Jerry and I have a similar background. We're both alumnus of the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council for a number of years. And I know back in 2003, I was asked to come out to the city of Newberry, and they said to me, well, you can come out and be Andy of Mayberry. So I thought about that, and I said, Andy of Mayberry, that sounds kind of nice. So, but Lowell of Newberry doesn't kind of cut it. So it's Newberry is on the western edge of Alachua County. A lot of folks think we're in Gilchrist County. I guess that's the way things are starting to work a little bit from a planning perspective. When I started with Newberry, we were a town of just a little over 1,000 people. And when I started in 2003, we went from about 1,000 people to 5,000 people within 2 years. It was just unbelievable growth. Newberry was one of the original Florida pioneer towns. Basically it was like, as you can see up in the upper right-hand corner, like a Wild West town. Somewhat still is, but it really has a lot of Florida pioneer heritage. There's a lot of the architecture and the buildings that are still there really are what is left of that pioneer heritage. We've done a lot of historic preservation in our downtown area. We were looking at our original vision program of how we were going to maintain this character when we were having we were becoming a bedroom community of the city of Gainesville. All of the growth was coming out to Newberry. At that time, not so much because people wanted to live in a small town or live in Newberry, but because the housing was less expensive. And there was a westward home movement. I mean, this is, when we look at the way that Alachua County has grown over the years, this is the 60s, this is the 70s. You can see this westward home movement coming out. So now, where we're going, okay. This is the City of Newberry future land use map. We've got 53 square miles in the city, and this became a problem not from a sprawl standpoint, but from a provision of infrastructure standpoint. The actual old city is this little square right here. That's the original town. So you can see all of this. We were operating about the size of a small county with a very small urban center. So the real key to our vision was how are we going to maintain the character of the community and provide the infrastructure that was necessary to meet the growth. And of course, we looked at this from a standpoint of a basic central planning model, which I'm not going to get into, but basically it's growing from the center out, not to prevent sprawl, but to effectively provide infrastructure at a financially feasible rate within the city. The idea, our philosophy in Newberry is that a city is there to provide facilities. That's what cities do. They're not holding areas. They're not counties. They don't operate as county governments. They operate to provide facilities. So in order to do that in an economically feasible manner and be able to accommodate growth, we looked at establishing a model which basically would actually entice people to come into redevelopment of the city as well as new development around the city, around the old city. So we've done everything we can through our comprehensive plan and land development regulations to instill this concept. And eventually, this is not a magic line in the sand. This is just a line for our urban services within the next 10 years. Hopefully, this line will build out over time to the point where the entire city will be served. So this is not a growth management line in the sense of on this side is forever rural, on this side is forever urban. We're looking at really redevelopment in our downtown area. That's one of the key features. We've developed density and overlay, and I know we talked about overlay districts. Our overlay district is a little bit different than the standard overlay district. I think it is what we talked about this morning. Our overlay district basically says that within these specific areas, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do to come in and build in accordance with some basic guidelines for design criteria. And so it enables a natural economic growth within the area from those principles. These are shots of the type of density we currently have. This is what we're trying to do in our downtown area. It's a matter of infill and redevelopment. It's not necessarily gentrification. Expanding the vision. What will sports tourism look like? Well, where did sports tourism come from in Newberry? It was a situation where we had worked about a year and a half on a vision program. We had about 75 citizens that met almost every month for a year and a half, which to me was phenomenal to keep that kind of interest. But the concern was, what do we want to be? Where do we want to go? And the concern was, how can we prevent ourselves from just becoming another bedroom community? And especially at that time, with the type of growth, this was before the bubble burst, the type of growth that was occurring, how do we maintain a character of a small town in the midst of all the growth? So what we have, we're very fortunate to have a very talented recreation director who does a lot of work outside in economic development areas other than recreation. And he basically came along, he says, what you guys are really talking about is you're talking about, having people come into your community, spend their money, and leave. And we said, that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking to build our commercial. We're overbuilt with residential. This is a great idea. So this sports tourism grew. Right now we're building a 16-field Nations Ballpark, which is the anchor of the sports tourism for Newberry. This will very shortly be expanded to 32 fields. It will be the largest one in the country. Nations Baseball Park, if those of you that, I'll talk a little bit about the Cooperstown project. This is the park under construction right now. Actually, we're much further along than this aerial actually shows. We're looking for an opening on June 30th this year. This is the Cooperstown project, which is the progenesis of the Nationstown project. And they've got about 18 fields in Cooperstown. Ours will look very much like this. Each field is like a little mini stadium. And you say, well, okay, this is fine. This is what Cooperstown looks like when Nations Park, or when Cooperstown Park is open in Cooperstown, New York. A very small town, but all of a sudden you've got this huge number of people coming in, almost in a Disney World type fashion, all at once. You can see every one of these fields, and you multiply this by 16 with parents and grandparents. These are the kids that come for every week, week after week after week. You're talking about 3,500 kids, 100 teams coming constantly. This is just another shot of that, of the concept. We were looking at it, we said, well, is Newberry different than Cooperstown? Is there something about about this model that may not fit? Well, we looked at it, and Cooperstown is very, very similar to Newberry in so many different ways. In the business district, the focus of the downtown area, we've got Canterbury, they've got a county fair, we've got a railroad, they've got a railroad that is very active. They've got the Farmers Museum, we've got Dudley Farm. Our downtown looks almost like their downtown. I mean, it's very similar. We have a Main Street focus in the redevelopment of our downtown area. Our activities are very, very similar to theirs. Now, we have expanded our facilities by building the Easton Sports Complex. And that's also another anchor. That's the Easton Sports Complex is a archery training center. Eventually will be an Olympic archery training center. The Easton Corporation is partnered with the city. We just had a group this last week, our largest ever. Recreation department said there were about 3,800 participants. So that's amazing just on a weekend. These are some of our new events that are occurring at the Easton Center. We have archery for the outdoors person. We have indoor. Of course, that was part of the event last week. We had quite a bit of indoor vendors and sales. We have the Olympic teams from various countries that are coming and training here on the off days. So that has been a big boost to this whole concept. When we talk about the potential tournaments, not only nations would provide tournaments there through the summer. They're looking at this summer starting off with a smaller number of teams, but every year building on that, we're looking at 12 weeks of teams, 100 teams at a time. We're also looking at, on the off times, using the fields for women's fast pitch softball and working with other programs. So those fields will not be unused on the off periods. We're looking at a potential economic impact, and this is where the idea of they come in and spend their money comes to. We're talking about hotel rooms, and these are very conservative numbers. 90,000 room nights generated, spending over $12 million on a day spend, and sales tax revenue at 6%. Just the day spending would be $756,000 with $2 million in the hotel area. This is from Cooperstown. Their lodging, their average hotels run about $165 a day. Average off-peak prices are about $105. You can see the bed and breakfast inns are similar. That's where we are concentrating right now, building bed and breakfast, although you'll see in a moment some of the planned projects to support the vision. Again, this is the area of the what we call the development area, urban area of the city. This area has some very special rules that we carved out several years ago. The state, of course, now the state Growth Management Act has been substantially changed. This is not as critical, but this is an autonomous area established with two areas within this area that were considered economic development overlays, pretty much where somebody can come in, almost provide a site and development plan and go to development. This is the area where the Nations Park is located. This is the area where the Eastman site is located. So we've got, and this is the 2741 corridor. This is State Road 26 coming through town. So, and this is the downtown area, so it's pretty much equidistant between the two. These are some redevelopment plans for our downtown. We're looking at maximizing an infill. A lot of what you see in the blue are existing municipal buildings. We are redeveloping also the area along the railroad tracks, because the railroad tracks can be a can be a divide or a barrier within the development. But in this case, we're trying to bring the railroad into the development. Hopefully, at some time in the future, have a connection, a physical connection, railroad connection between the park and the downtown, and that's what we're working for now. In fact, that even includes building a railroad type facility that would be more of a visitors center. This is the area. This is the project area for the park here. The 80 acres are located here. The first phase is being built now. The second phase will be coming very shortly. This property just to the west is owned by the Davis family, and they are planning to construct a development on this site, which will be in 4 phases, and will actually have a physical connection to the park. And you can see how the park will look there when it's completely built out. Those are the connections. The first phase is deal with hotels, recreation, residential units that will serve the park basically, and then we'll have some mixed use commercial. The second phase will again be another hotel. Third phase again will be another hotel, and the final phase will be basically hotel, but it will be lower density single family residential to complement the park. Now, that's not the only thing that's going on. We have just down the road from this, we have Newberry Ridge Master Plan going in. This has been approved. This is interestingly enough, the backers on this project are Chinese. They are looking at wellness and fitness as their mantra. They are almost looking to, this will be talking about a destination for national and international participants. Again, sports, tying it into sports tourism. A third area, which is located, this is just about a half a mile north of the park. This is owned also by and being developed by Northfleet Development Group, and it is a town center project, much like Tioga. And the first phase is going in within the next few months, and this will be basically a commercial area that will be also supporting the nation's project. So what are we looking at in a final result? I mean, this is what we could be looking at, but from the standpoint of what we're building, I think this is what we're hoping to be looking at in the process. I can answer any questions